Alrighty, so we're going to be going through our body weight hip thrust. Now, I also have the booty band, which we'll run through as well. But let's first of all go on with the setup. So once we're laying down, what we want to make sure from here is that the feet aren't coming all the way towards the bum and they're not all the way out. Now, depending on where they do go, will depend on where we're targeting. So if I want to target more hamstring, yes, I will go further out. But what we want to do is come somewhat close to the glutes, but not too close. So it should just be where they're comfortable and be able to tuck. Now, I'm going to start from the top in terms of cues and work my way down. So where we start with, what we want to make sure when we're hip thrusting, guys, our hands aren't up doing anything. What we want to do is push those fists as high to the roof as we can. From there, set the shoulders down. So I'm setting down towards the hips. And I don't know if you can see, but you can see that starts to arch my back. So set the the shoulders down towards the hips. From there, come out on the 45 as if you're doing a push-up. Drive those elbows into the ground. This is now locking on our upper body. So our lats are going to be on nice and tight, our posterior chain. From here, what we want to do, because this part of the movement, there's nothing else going on, except the feet. With your feet, guys, make sure that they're not too close, they're not too wide, unless specified, but more so the feet. What I want you to think about is we don't just want to go into the heels, we don't just want to go onto the toes. Again, unless specified. With this, what I want you to think about is our 3 points of contact, much like our squat. So when I'm doing my hip thrust, I'm driving the heels into the ground, my pinky toes as well, and I'm trying to grip the ground with my big toe. So I'm driving that big toe in. This is going to help, again, light up the whole posterior chain. So hamstrings and our glutes. So again, elbows, shoulders down to bum, 45. Feet are then driven in. From here, as I go through the hip thrust, I'm trying to push, because I'm on the grass, I'm going to slide a bit. What I'm trying to do is as I drive up into that hip thrust, I'm trying to push my feet out. So I'm creating that tension, trying to push those feet away from my body. Now, as I come up, we don't want to finish, so we're in this bend position. So as we're doing our hip thrust, see my hips aren't locked down, I'm not in full extension. We want to make sure that we get into that posterior tilt, we come all the way up. We get that big squeeze in the glutes, and then we come down. So we're going through our hip thrust, making sure we get those hips as high as we can, as long as you're still staying engaged. We don't want to get that big overarch in the back. We just want to go as high as the hips will allow into that posterior tilt. Okay? Lastly, if we were to add a booty band, I'm always going to say go above the knees. From there, all the booty band is doing, guys, it's just giving you a little more proprioception. So you're able to feel those knees driving out. Because as we do the hip thrust, we want to make sure that tension is on the band. Now, what we don't want to do is let that band pull those knees in. So as I go do the hip thrust and I come up, I don't want to let those knees collapse. At the same time, I don't want to be going wider as I come up. All right? So that is the biggest cues for our hip thrust. Now, this is any hip thrust, guys, especially on the ground. Always drive those elbows into the ground. The only time this won't happen is if we have, say, a plate or a dumbbell on our lap. As we come up, naturally, you may raise the elbows up slightly. It's not ideal, but what you're still thinking about is if you are holding onto a plate, is that you're still trying to drive those those shoulders down towards the glutes. All right, so that is our hip.